Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. I'm Beatriz Mourad, and today I'm joined by Michelle Anderer.
Hello.
And Delaney Stovall.
Hey, y'all.
This is a podcast all about the mythology of She-Ra, continuing our series of discussions about She-Ra while we wait for Season 2. You can listen to all our previous coverage of She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, including our Ketradora podcast and our She-Ra Queer Representation podcast, by subscribing to our She-Ra-specific iTunes feed or the Overly Animated YouTube channel. A very quick note before we start, I have to clarify that some of the questions we have, we may be asking or answering ourselves in this pod and thinking and theorizing about may have been answered in the original She-Ra show. We are not going by that information. We are only basing our thoughts on the information presented to us in the current Netflix run. So don't bother correcting us in the comments section because, I mean, who knows? Even maybe maybe they'll
It's because we don't care.
Yeah, don't bother.
It's not that we, look, it's not that we don't care, but also, maybe they're gonna they may not, they may deviate from it. They may make new mythology. Who knows? We are only basing it off the Netflix stuff. All right, so guys, I wanted to start by talking, I wanted to start big. Talk big and then go into specific. So let's talk about Etheria, because I have some questions about the first ones and what they are. So, are they aliens? Are they colonizers? What we know is that they came to Etheria and kind of infiltrated their technology within the very planet's core. I mean, did they create Etheria? No, there was an Etheria before them, I'm assuming. So I just wanted to get your takes on who they are or who you think they are based on what the show has shown you. What is your impression of the first ones?
So I wanted putting in so we have to include we're going to talk more about stuff like context and stuff too. So we're not going to talk about past She-Ra, and we have to also talk about in context of current animation and kind of things She-Ra currently could be drawing from.
Right. They could be drawing inspiration from a lot of things.
Right. So when I hear first ones, I don't know if a lot of listeners are going to be fans of this or know what I'm talking about, but I have been playing Assassin's Creed since the games came out. And in Assassin's Creed, they have this weird thing. You're like, don't you just kill people in the past? That is true. But they also have a weird, modern mythology also. And in Assassin's Creed, you have what we call the precursors, the first civilization, or the Isu. They're all the same people, and they're the ones who came before. They're gods who created mankind, and they're crazy, blah, blah, blah. And we gave them names like Juno and blah, blah. So that's their alternate history that Assassin's Creed does. And to me, when I see the first ones and I hear about them and I see, what's her name? Light Hope.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's very, very similar to Assassin's Creed. You have these strange monolithic buildings. It doesn't look right. It looks very high tech. Even Light Hope's kind of looks like a projection. That's how the ones who came before are presented in Assassin's Creed. And, also, the first ones. And so we also don't know, did they create mankind? I mean, I'm assuming mankind never encountered the first ones. Because it seems, they kind of, we don't know that for a fact. No one's talked about it. But you don't, you kind of get that. They don't really know what's in those buildings. They're kind of overgrown. They just call them the first ones. But, we don't know. So that's my kind of take on it. It seems very, very similar to that. Obviously, they can do whatever they want. But I would kind of take it as, I don't necessarily think they created people or whatever. Because we also have kind of a different people kind of dealio in She-Ra, because there aren't cat people in Assassin's Creed, right. So I don't know.
Right, fair. Unfortunately.
Granted, they do also kind of have this, I think, symbolism sort of sometimes in She-Ra, and I can't remember, there's a flash or something, and I feel like they kind of act like She-Ra came from space, so I don't know, they kind of act like Adora, crash landed, she's not normal,
So here's
I don't know
the thing,
what the deal is.
Here's the thing, though. So it has been said that they were the ones who gave the princesses their powers. They're the ones who created the runestones. They're the ones who created She-Ra, as a concept.
Right.
So I'm assuming in order to create She-Ra, they needed to have a human to like
So they
thrust
probably
the
made
power
people.
into.
Or they were like, in Assassin's Creed, they enslaved mankind. To be fair, they made mankind and then they enslaved them. But so it could make sense, you know, if they invaded or if they kind of like, they also could have come about independently. Like, you have this super all-powerful civilization, then humans start popping up and they're like, oh, you're mine now.
Right.
And they're probably like, here, we can like, there's also a lot of Avatar Korra elements in She-Ra. Like, there's like, I don't know, it's obviously, I feel like, very inspired by Avatar and the Legend of Korra. And, you know, animation wise and just a lot of the elements they talk about in the show.
Right.
And so I do think it would make, you know, giving the princesses their powers, creating these rune stones, it's very reminiscent of, you know, you have the Avatar, who's the bridge between worlds. You have the spirit world and like the material world.
Right.
And so that would kind of make sense with She-Ra, you know, bring balance to the world, which is like Avatar.
Yeah.
So, but it's interesting, like, why did the first ones feel that was necessary? Did they consider themselves intermediaries for mankind? Like, does She-Ra, or that's the other thing too, they talk about protecting Etheria. So in that case, maybe they don't care about humans at all. They just want to protect the Earth. In which case, if we're doing some like eco-lesbian stuff in this show, I'm about it. Like,
it's like basically Steven Universe part 2.
Right.
Yes, I'm about it. And so, which that would be another thing. I think this show is probably also inspired by stuff Steven Universe was doing. Also, another thing, you know, it takes a while to animate things, but things don't happen in a vacuum.
Right.
And I definitely don't think, and we've talked about this before in the queer representation podcast, that this show probably wouldn't be what it is in its current form and able to exist if it wasn't for Steven Universe and The Legend of Korra and shows that have like broken barriers.
Right.
You couldn't have an animated show with a female main character like this until The Legend of Korra came out.
Right.
That was the first show on like a major network created by like, you know, it was on Nickelodeon with a female lead. That like didn't happen, like with a fighting character, you know. So that's kind of where we're going with. Like, there's a lot of context to what we're dealing with. But I think of it, you know, it's kind of I'm kind of leaning towards this sort of, you know, again, Assassin's Creed. It seems very similar to like that to me, but you know, I don't know necessarily if they care about mankind. I think they're like, protect the planet. I don't care about you.
Right. So it's more protect like the technology they left on the planet.
And it makes sense with the whole, like,
with the Horde, which we'll get into because it's like,
and
the Horde sucks. But it's like, are the Horde like the first ones? Like, are they their true villains? Like, we don't know. But Michelle, what is your take on the first ones, and how do you read them as a thing?
I kind of read them as an external. I feel like they were maybe the original settlers of Etheria, but it also seems like they're definitely not around anymore. Light Hope isn't really a person. She's, like Delaney said, she's more of a hologram, not like robot, but like some kind of like presence brought upon by technology only. Right. And she's not like, you know, organic material. So my question is kind of, did the first ones, who I don't think they were human, but they obviously had very high-tech technology, embedded it throughout the entire planet's core, which means they were there for a long time. They invested a lot of resources in that planet, and they're not there anymore. So did humans like start cropping up? Did they come from another planet too and kind of force them out? Because it seems like nobody knows much about the first ones, and Trapp is like kind of the only one who's really investigating them on a historical / scientific level. So I feel like there's a disconnect between them and current society. And Adora being the new She-Ra is like the only kind of linkage to them that we have there. Totally. And I just feel like, I'm wondering, is She-Ra like, Adora seems human, but I mean, she seems human, right? But the thing is, so if the first ones created the concept of She-Ra, and we know Adora came from another planet,
her look human.
Yeah, that's the thing, because again, like, Shadow Weaver's so obsessed with Adora, and I swear on everything, it's because she was there when Adora's, like, comet whatever thing landed. She's like, oh, she's like a first one baby or something.
Here's my special space baby. Yeah, I respect her.
Exactly. She's like, she was gonna be like the evil Superman for her Hordean cause, right? She was gonna scoop her up and train her to be the ultimate fighter, and she knew that she was
did her
capable
job.
of things. She knew that Adora was going to be capable of things that a normal human isn't. And that's why she gave her so much special treatment. And that's why she just never looked at Catra, because she's like, Psh, you're not from another planet.
You're not cool.
You're not magical. Like, I need it to be Adora. Like, that's why her obsessiveness over getting her back makes sense.
Gotcha. So you think Adora is a first one?
I think so, or somehow she got the powers of the first one, because I don't think the first ones were ever human. I think they were.
Hey, this is like Assassin's Creed.
Oh, I never play that.
There's thing in Assassin's
Creed.
Creed.
Going off of what I see in the show, but I think like they had a combination of maybe magic and technology, and Adora's got some of that going on too. Okay, she might not know it yet to the full extent, but
kind of to counter that theory though, because here's the thing. And this is all explained in the big episode for the mythology for listeners if you're curious. It's episode 11, which is conveniently called Light Hope. There is what's her name? Well, Light Hope says to Adora that the previous She-Ra has so much power that she was able to move the planet into a different dimension where it's alone. So Etheria's like on its own. I don't know how the Horde found it, but maybe that's why there's and it's been like 1,000 years since the previous She-Ra. So maybe it's like, I don't know how, maybe that's why the first ones are gone, because in those thousands of years, like that She-Ra, like Mara, she disconnected she was like, go away, bye. Which brings the question though, if the first ones ever show up, whether, let's say that the Horde is like done, like they dealt with the Horde, Hordak's like rip Hordak, and now what? Say that they decide to continue the show and it doesn't just end with like this arc. Well then, if the first ones come back, wouldn't they necessarily be would it be a welcome return? Because I'm assuming the reason that She-Ra, like Mara, the previous She-Ra, like lost it, because she lost it because she became obsessed with like she became, I don't know, what's that word? Like suspicious of everything, right? She became, so my thing is, why was she so nervous? Is it because the first ones, the people that gave her powers, I'm assuming she has to have some sort of communication with them. Are they bad? Are they good? Are they just gods? So they're ambivalent of us and they just don't care?
That's a good point, because I don't think we can take Light Hope at face value. I mean, is she a reliable narrator? The way she talks about Mara is certainly, we know how she feels about her. She's like, oh, she couldn't handle it. She sucked. You better not turn out that way, Adora. And it's kind of like, whoa, okay. But that's not really a holistic perspective of who Mara could have been. So yeah, did Mara have good reason to be acting the way she was? I don't think we know yet, but yeah, maybe the first ones are a little sketch.
Yeah. Well, if you have, what you think too is, if we're going to do it the context, like again, bringing up like, a previous influence, and we talked about this in the episode discussion of Light Hope, that, well, not we, I wasn't on it, but I'm assuming someone, I don't know, what did I talk about? At some point, I believe, I'm sure Dylan or somebody talked about it, but because I unfortunately missed all the She-Ra coverage, was that Light Hope, that episode, is literally the guru in Avatar. That is the same episode. They are almost identical in how they play out. Because you have
totally.
Because you have the guru, and he's talking, and if this is the first time this comparison has been made, I'm having a stroke, but it's fine. That you have the guru is talking to Aang, and he's like, and he's unlocking his chakras because Aang's trying to be a better Avatar, and he's like, he's like, let go of your earthly attachments, and his earthly attachment is Katara. And so now you have there's what, 13 episodes? 12 in
13, I think.
13,
okay.
Yeah.
You might have to remind me, does no, I can't remember the name of the episode. You know when Catra just lets her go? That's before like okay. So if we're gonna talk, so you have Light Hope being like, you have to let go. So Catra literally let go of Adora, like literally let her go. Yeah. And of course, that entire episode is about their relationship and how now they're at two different places. And Adora still like is trying to have a connection with Catra and wants to save her. And Catra's like, bye. So,
well,
and then
I mean, in the last episode, they did give each other that lingering look. So neither of them have let go.
Right, I agree. But Catra is, she's pushing a little bit more. But you have Light Hope being like, you have to let go of your attachments. Her attachments are Adora, and who shows up to save her? Glimmer and
Is this your Glimmadora argument?
Bo.
Is this what
my argument is? Always Glimmadora. Anyway. But this, you can, in the context of Avatar and also like being a human being, this is bad to be like, let go of your attachments. No, that's what makes us people. That's what makes us human. That's what makes She-Ra and Adora different, probably, from these robotic hologram people. So I would say the thought that the first ones aren't good is probably a good one. Also, not that we should go for the Luddite argument that technology is bad, but considering Entrapta is able to hack this super powerful stuff, and we know what the runestones can do, and there's a reason. Granted, the Horde is totally like propaganda indoctrinating people, but the princesses are very powerful, and I'm sure that power maybe in the past has been used for not good things. And if it's really powerful stuff, it can be dangerous. And in that case, maybe the first ones aren't that great.
Okay, yeah. Well, speaking of the princesses, since you brought them up, let's talk about what does it mean to be a princess, because in this context. Because on the one hand, in the beginning of the show, I was like, okay, cool, I get it. So the princesses were these beings with supernatural, like, powerful abilities. Magic? Is it magic? Is it science? Well, if Entrapta didn't exist, I would be like, oh, it's magic. But Entrapta does exist. So I'm like, well, what's Entrapta's power beside her hair? I'm like, what's her thing? I don't know. But point is, I'm like, well, whether is it based on a title? Like, do you have to be born into it? Like, is it like a very strict lineage? How does this work with princesses? And at first I was like, okay, whatever. It's magic at first. But then there are sorceresses. Cast a spell, I don't think is a princess. Shadow Weaver, I don't think is a princess. But they use magic. What is the difference between a princess and a sorceress in this world? Isn't that both the same? I'm just trying to understand, because at first I thought that the way the Horde was able to turn people to their side is by taking advantage of that fear of princesses. But if sorceresses exist, then it's not a fear of their power. It's a fear of what then? Like, that's something I need clarification. Michelle, what were you gonna say?
I think it is a fear of power. I think it's a fear of, like, to what extent do you have power? I don't think sorceresses necessarily, they have like some amount of power. They have some amount of, they can get their hands on a runestone or two, but nothing to the extent of a princess.
Well, I would say a normal sorceress doesn't have, they wouldn't have a runestone, right? They just have magic.
But where does the magic come from?
So I'm not sure if any of the princesses have innate magic abilities, if they didn't have those runestones sitting around that they could easily recharge.
Runestone?
I don't know if Entrapta has. I mean, her hair is a mystery question mark, but I don't think she, like, honestly, her power might just be that she's very good at science, and
But, like, then does she need a runestone? Is she a princess if she doesn't have a runestone?
Well, we also think about, I think there's a layered thing here, because they call them the princesses, and I think that, again, that's also the tactic of the Horde, is just kind of group them all, be afraid of the princesses, but don't be afraid of Shadow Weaver. Like, does that make sense? But we have, I think Michelle is saying this, I think it's a combination of the runestones and being royalty, like actually literally being a princess. Okay. And probably how it works is that there probably are magical bloodlines. Like, there are probably, like, you have Angella and, Micah, and you can have, bloodlines that go back forever, and these are matriarchies, and have, magical children. But then if you're a princess, you can take advantage of runestones, or maybe even, and depending on the first ones, maybe they created the runestones and they're related to the families. Like, it could be one of those things, like they are bound to that family in a way that it makes, like, obviously we had the Black Runestone and Shadow Weaver used it, but I don't necessarily I think anyone can probably use a runestone if they have enough magic, but I would probably say that they're still, though, very much linked to that family. so that it might be, it obviously runestones amplify power, but there's probably some sort of relation to, like, each kingdom has their runestone, their royal families can, they're very deeply connected to the runestone, but then on top of that are magical because of whatever reason, however this nonsense works.
Gotcha. So it's kind of, in a way, it's kind of like Excalibur and like King Arthur, where it's like, no matter who holds the title, if you're the true king, then you can pull it out. So it's kind of like
it's like She-Ra. Not everyone could be She-Ra. Like, I don't think
right. Well, She-Ra's a special case because she's OP. But I'm talking just purely like princesses. It's, say if it's because they are like a monarchy, like if someone had like a coup and was like, whatever, the new king or queen or whatever wouldn't be, or the new princess wouldn't have those powers because it's not title based. It would be blood based.
Maybe not. I don't think it's like a guarantee. I like Delaney's theory that these aristocracies have just like have a bloodline consisting of magic for a while, so that, if you happen to have a runestone lying around and an army behind you, you could be a pretty powerful threat to the Horde. But if you're a random person who grew up in a village with magic, I mean, maybe you could light a fire, for your family, but that's probably about it without a runestone. So it's like, it's a question of, access to the most powerful thing and your own innate abilities. I feel like it's a combination of those two things.
And I would say privilege, like we were talking about.
Exactly.
Being a I was suggesting that there was a chance when these were created, there were families in mind. But the black runestone throws a wrench in that, Shadow Weaver used it and was very powerful. Mm-hmm. And it's not like Scorpio was like worse off for not having it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I don't think all princesses not all princesses rely on a runestone to maximize their potential. Trapta, Scorpia, they don't, but Glimmer absolutely needs a runestone.
Right.
So I think it's like a case by case basis in terms of princesses, how much of them use the runestone or not.
Okay. And speaking of Glimmer and her family, can we talk very briefly about Angella? And did I misunderstand? I got the impression, I thought I understood that she was immortal.
Yes, I also got that belief.
Right. So she's this immortal queen. So if she's immortal, then unless she was born after the first ones, then she must, maybe she doesn't know what the first ones are. But what is she then? If she's not human,
maybe she does know. She just hasn't told anybody anything.
Oh my God, Angela's the first one. She's the first one, guys.
She's keeping the secret, protecting her runestone all the time.
And if we're gonna have a character keeping secrets, it's her. Yeah. Other than that, whatever that crazy witch lady's name is, and I can already hear my girlfriend
Maz.
Yelling. She loves that character.
I love Maz. She was voiced by.
I like her too.
What's her name? The voice of Azula, which is
Grey Delisle.
Yeah.
Grey Delisle.
Yeah,
awesome.
she voices Azula too, which is crazy. But yeah, so that's something. And also, so is Glimmer immortal, half immortal? How does that work?
Let's think. She's definitely half human,
at least half.
Yeah, she's
or
half
whatever,
human.
whatever
her dad was.
Yeah.
Because
that's the thing. I don't know necessarily. Maybe they're not human. They're whatever you are if you're from Etheria. But
I mean, but that's another question. So Etheria is. Literally, Mara threw Etheria into a black hole and was like, you're going into a different dimension. Does time work the same way outside it? What is the... I just am thinking way too scientifically about this. And Trapta would be very proud of me. Okay, move it. We're going to move on. We're going to move on to She-Ra. So, she's described as Etheria's champion. She's powerful. She can move planets, apparently.
She's huge.
She's blonde. Yeah. We're all very attracted to her. Doesn't matter who we are. We're all very attracted to her. So she's described as the champion. Does this mean that she's gonna battle other champions of other planets? She's the defender of Etheria. So I'm assuming the things she has to defend come from outside Etheria. Granted, she's got to keep Etheria balanced, so she's got to deal with Etheria's internal issues. But if she's that strong that she can move a planet into a different dimension, I am not letting this go because it's wild. Then I'm assuming the biggest threats are coming from outside, right?
Well, I would say, I would like to go back to my eco-lesbian show theory that, it makes sense that Etheria's champion. Her literal job is to protect Etheria. And that doesn't mean that they come from outside. What are we doing to our planet currently? Right. Terrible things. And, it would make sense. This is also around the time we have to think, again, it takes time to make shows. This is when a show about, I've been waiting for a reboot of Captain Planet, and maybe it's here.
Maybe it is here.
We need Captain Planet
colors,
right now.
They got
exactly.
The rainbows.
This is it. We need Captain Planet. And we all know, Noelle has seen Captain Planet.
We know this.
We know that you've seen it. Everyone's seen Captain Planet. And it makes sense, and also this is kind of what we need right now, because we're literally murdering the planet. Yeah. And the Horde, there's a lot of imagery there that they're also literally murdering the planet. They're poisoning Etheria, and they've talked about, the forests around whatever that planet, their kingdom's called, I don't remember. Around Glimmer's kingdom, that the forests, the magical forests, and the forests have burned. And this, there's a lot of imagery and a lot of discussion about, Etheria itself. And I think also, just mentioning, they immediately were like, this is Etheria, this is the planet. And it's this is important. Maybe because normally you watch kind of a fantasy show. They don't, Avatar's world does not have a name. There's no name for the world of Avatar. It's just that's they live there. And they have kingdoms and countries and stuff. They don't, but, we have Etheria. Granted, we were also talking about apparently existing somewhere else and being pushed into another dimension. But, I think it would make sense. And granted, I'm not saying there aren't outside threats, but I definitely think it's, the Horde right now would be the biggest threat to it all.
Totally.
But, I don't know. I don't know if I'm too excited about having, it's not that I'm anti, sci-fi aliens in this show. It's just
not the priority.
It's not the priority. No.
Yeah. And I'm not sure how it's gonna work.
For me, if for her to go into a Colosseum type of situation and go basically Thor Ragnarok, for me it would be after this whole 4 or 5 seasons of dealing with the Horde.
I mean, in Steven Universe, you don't know Homeworld exists in for a long time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it never seems like a reality. And then, of course, forever I was like, we're going to Homeworld. And Dylan never listened to me. What did we do? We went to Homeworld. Anyway.
Of course we're going to Homeworld.
Of course we're going to Homeworld. And so that's, I think, that could be a possibility, especially if, eventually, even maybe it could happen just in an abstract way. But I think ultimately when you have something like She-Ra, very similar to Avatar, and we have this power and we have light hope, they're going to argue. It's not even just this argument where she's like, I'm not letting everything go. I think they're probably going to have she's going to have that struggle of identity and of, you're not good and I don't like what you represent and you can't control me, which is probably what happened with Mara. So I think that, I don't know. I think there's a lot, but I wouldn't be shocked if there were other planets. Also, when you mention another dimension, you kind of got to keep talking about it. Also,
you open up that potential.
Glimmer probably travels between dimensions. That's probably what she does.
She totally does. But, okay,
and so all of this is going to be explained to us by Entrapta.
I hope so.
Oh
Entrapta is the ideal person. But speaking of Entrapta, the way she her theories, I put them as Entrapta theories because we don't know for certain if she's 100% correct. I'd like to think she is, but the way
she's been right so far.
But the way she describes Etheria, it doesn't even seem like a planet. It seems just like this giant rock of metal and energy and technology. So that's where sometimes
they could have made Etheria. That could have been a thing. You make something, you want somebody to protect it. The first ones created it, and they made She-Ra to protect what they made.
Totally, but then
so they just made the whole planet. Oh wow! So do they just hop around making planets and then leave when
they're
the
opposite
job's done?
But see, the thing is, I don't know if they left or if Mara was the one who ran away with it, who stole it.
Oh my God,
that's an interesting theory. Yeah. If she's like, yo, I don't like this idea. I'm gonna keep Etheria safe myself. Bye.
Ran away from Gallifrey. This is exactly what happened.
I don't know what any of that means, but I like the idea that she claimed Etheria for herself and took it off the map.
Because I feel 1,000 years is enough for people to after being disconnected from the first ones,
They would-
1,000 years is enough time to forget about the first one language and all that.
Yeah.
And I think there's a throwaway line from Glimmer when they first, like, in that first episode where she's like, how is it possible that this girl can understand a language that we haven't been able to understand for like 1,000 years? Like, that 1,000-year thing has been repeated to us various times throughout the show.
Also,
Which
we know
also
this, it doesn't even take 1,000 years. 1,000 years is a really long time.
Yeah.
You know, we've lost languages in the span of decades.
Yeah. And also, if it's 1,000 years, Maz, how old are you?
That's a good question.
She's immortal. She lives forever. I mean, maybe she's really
girlfriend. I think it's safe to say.
So maybe she's immortal, but she still ages. Maybe that's the same thing that's going to happen to Glimmer's mom.
Or maybe Angella's just looks like Angella, and then you just have Raz.
Oh my God, Raz! I've been calling her Maz. Oh God. Anyway, yes, Raz. So okay, well, do the first ones look like Light Hope? Then I think
probably
they have
blue
outfits,
kind of. Like, I'm basing basically the first ones off the Kree from Marvel. So kind of like this, because the Kree came to Earth, and it was they were what? The mutants came from the Kree in doing things with humans. That's how the mutants came about, I think, if I'm right. Someone's gonna correct me, but or they're also linked to the Inhumans. I don't know. Anyway,
there's no continuity in Marvel. Who knows?
But point is, the Kree were they're linked to the the Blue Angels who came down from the heavens and whatever. Okay. So it was like the aliens technically. Anyway, point is, so I'm just like, if she's blue or like purple, then there's another comparison, Light Hope. But yeah, okay. So then here's a question. Then, are the Horde, are they like the first ones? Like, are they the first ones, like, mortal enemies, and they came to steal Etheria? Or are the Horde? No, I don't think the Horde are the first ones. I take that back. I don't think that's the case. Because the thing is, they would understand how the technology worked.
Yeah.
But are they, like, from outside? Because, for instance, Hordak, we haven't met anyone that looks like him. Even other people from the Horde look like somewhat similar to humanoids versus Hordak, who's just like a skull. So is that a
Hordak he's a big question mark, honestly. Now in his weird little pet thing too. Like I feel like there were people in some of the villages who were more animal-like, kind of like Katra. Yeah. But Hordak is the most kind of out there in terms of his character design. So maybe he did come from somewhere else. And started the Horde.
Granted, it could be kind of in Starboard. Granted, I know we just keep bringing in a bunch of comparisons, but for our listeners, hopefully they know what some of these are. But if you have Star versus the Forces of Evil, and you have humans and monsters, and so that could be the thing. It could be you have people who look like people, and then you have people who don't look like people, and with like Katra and Scorpia, and I think, and it's also kind of like it's a tried and true trope where you have like the evil people don't look like you, which hopefully that's not what we're doing, because like if they just make Katra the only gay character and she's evil, that's bad.
Adora can't be straight. Okay.
That's true.
Oh, absolutely not.
Also, Glimmer is not straight. And also, have you looked at Bo? He's not straight either. But
I mean, no one's straight. Like, there's no way anyone could be straight when She-Ra exists. Like, none of the princesses are straight. 100%.
That's true.
Yes.
But anyway, we could have this kind of like, there are people who look like people and people who don't look like people, but still kind of look like people.
Right. But I mean, I think it has been shown, like, for instance, that village that they protected in the first place, in that first episode, it was full with like people with animal features. So it's not like, only the bad people have animal features.
But all the people with the most privilege, all the princesses, pretty human. And Scorpia looks kind of not human, and now she was the one princess who felt left out by the other princesses. Yeah, so there could be some weird species stuff going on here.
Absolutely, there could be speciesism happening.
Well, this is for the record, this is also present in Ruby.
Oh, this is totally present in Ruby.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, I have to interject something. My girlfriend, she likes to text me while we're podcasting. Likes to put in her little comments.
Aww.
This is Bo is a bi god along with Mermista, which I think
mean,
we all agree with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Bo is our bicon. He's our
bicon. He's a bicon.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
He is a bicon. Yes. But okay, so let's bring it back to our protagonist. Let's bring him back to She-Ra for a second. So, one, is she reincarnated? Is she going to be more like the Avatar and be able to like talk to past lives, or at least have some memories of the past? Or is she just completely a different new person? Because no offense, like Adora does look a little bit like She-Ra.
That's
like,
true. She does.
So, well, granted, I just don't know how different she, like, beside growing a couple more feet and her hair growing a little longer, I don't know if facially she looks different. Does she look like a different person? Has that been established, or does she always look like?
See, that's the thing, because I was like, as everyone would be like, oh, Adora, She-Ra. I'm like, did you not notice?
She's like, her build is a lot thicker, and I feel like her hair is a slightly different blonde. And
it grows like 25
she's
feet.
like mostly just like a lot more buff and a lot more dazzling.
Yes.
Whereas Adora's like a normal kind of like slender person.
Which you could still have, like, if you watch Miraculous Ladybug or any superhero show ever, there's that, like, people are stupid when they look at your face. Because, Superman, like, Clark Kent just wears glasses, but he looks like Superman.
But it's fine. Point is, my question is she a reincarnation of people? Like, is she Mara, but a rebirthed? Or is she not? Because, I mean, for instance, bringing back, because it would tie in nicely with the whole kind of letting go philosophy. Because that's very Buddhist. And the whole thing about Buddhism is you have to be able to let go in order to reach nirvana so that you don't reincarnate again and you don't live another life full of suffering. So the question is, like, is she being reincarnated? Because they're already playing with these ideas. So I'm like, okay, so reincarnation may not be off the table if they're already taking from this. So there is this kind of question, like, is she connected to these past lives, or is she just like a brand new thing that's just given the powers? Like, it's not necessarily, it's not a connection of soul, but it's just a connection of like, we need to find the purest soul or whatever. We need to find the right soul or the right person for She-Ra, or I don't know.
So, I mean, my inclination initially was going to say, yeah, they just gave her powers because they believe that she had the attributes worthy of She-Ra. But the thing that kind of throws a wrench in that is she understands First One's language with no effort. And how the heck can that be true if she didn't inherit someone else's memories? I mean, how could Adora know that?
She only knew that once she got the sword. So it could be that the sword, gave her the information. Like kind of just like back to like kind of technology theme. The sword made her like download the information. Oh my God, is Adora like part robot?
No. Anyway.
Okay.
No.
Shut down.
No.
So
go ahead.
I'm just thinking through this. So if the sword is the thing, if the sword decides you are worthy of it, it will allow you to transform, and then you can understand First One's language and become 8 feet tall and do a lot of powerful stuff. It's all in the sword, basically, as long as you have like the right temperament or morals
it could be.
or whatever.
You can see, like, you have Thor's hammer, you have Excalibur. Because you have, like, even if Thor's Thor and he literally has the hammer, someone else can pick up the hammer. For example, Captain America can pick up the hammer. And because he is, like, a good person.
Yeah.
But I'm not sold on the sword. I wouldn't say I would be upset if that came to be true. I think that's an okay thing. And it would because we need to have some sort of continuity, which to me is why I think she has to be reincarnated. Again, I grew up loving Avatar and Korra. The reason we are podcasting right now is because back in the day, we had a Legend of Korra podcast, and before that, there was an Avatar podcast. And we have we have very, very, I mean, these are like on the nose, like obvious inspiration from Avatar. And again, I think just mentioning Mara and being like, don't be like Mara, to me, like, this isn't like they're training her to be She-Ra. She is She-Ra. Like, she is. That's who she is.
She's got to hone it now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And, and I do agree with the Buddhist thing with the, northly attachment, which again, that's what Avatar was all about. And so I think I feel like it hasn't been established, like they haven't said it out loud explicitly, but I think talking about Mara at all, I think just implies that she's reincarnated. And I don't think she's going to be reincarnated. I don't think it's going to be the same as Avatar. I don't think we're going to see Mara. I don't think we're going to have past lives. I do think it is this collective memory, but I don't think it's going to be how it was treated in Avatar as the spiritual connection where she can literally have a conversation. I don't think that's what's going to happen.
Gotcha. Okay. Fair. So then I guess going in line with like Avatar and the inspirations taken, because even when you mentioned like Star, right? And you had so you had the humans and the people who don't look like humans. There's still these kind of, it feels like there's like these two worlds, these two dimensions, or like these two, like there's a spirit world and then there's the normal world. Well, in She-Ra, we don't have that unless we count the first one's understanding and the first one's as the other world, and the connection that's being made isn't between, say, like the spirit world and the human world, but between the humans and the first ones, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that is a way to look at it for sure, because and that's the thing, like we wonder where the magic came from. It's possible. So like, okay, maybe the first ones literally made the planet, and so yeah, they probably imbued it with magic, but there's a chance that the first one tech and the normal ongoing magic we see present in the current world are two separate things that kind of, interweave with each other sometimes, but aren't necessarily all the same thing.
And I think technology uses magic.
Yeah, but the magic's like just natural to the world anyway. It can take or leave the first one's tech, but it doesn't rely on it necessarily.
So for instance, here's a theory. So Etheria was always this source of magic and energy. The first ones went in and were like, we need to take advantage of this, and then built in the technology around it to enhance it. But then they realized this could go very south if we don't have people balancing it. So we're gonna have these princesses to balance each type of magic. But we need someone to keep the princesses in check, so we're going to have She-Ra. So this is just all like a very poorly constructed corporation or something, is basically what I'm doing.
That's the new name for first ones. Poorly constructed corporation incorporated. Basically.
But, so maybe it's that? Like, that's
maybe.
How they kind of, that's like a way, and that kind of then we can understand why, like, nature comes into it, because then at its very core, it's still about nature, and preserving that, and keeping ourselves from destroying it. And,
right, and that plays in, I forget, the plant princess, her whole power came from, Perfuma. Oh my god, Perfuma. Her whole power came from that tree. That tree was just a magic tree. And as long as the tree was doing well, she could make things grow too. So that was basically her runestone, was the magic tree. So yeah, I like this theory way more than if first ones just came across Etheria as a magical planet and was like, oh yeah, this is great. We got science. Let's combine science and magic and have a great time. Because that, I don't know, to me that's like way more interesting, because it's like, what else can the planet do? It's this sustainable magic planet with all these potential things, and that also means the first ones, I mean, maybe they're as far back as we know, but maybe they weren't even like the first people. Maybe they're just the oldest ones left around that have remnants of technology.
Yeah, I mean, there's also, for instance, like the Moonstone is powered by the 3 moons of Etheria. So I'm just like, okay, like, is it lunar powered, or is there some magic going on, and it ties back into the nature thing? So it also still, it works with our theory, is what I'm saying. It's all starting to fit. Or maybe there were now I'm gonna bring in Dragon Prince in here, but maybe there were kind of like moon elves type people, but then the first ones were like, ooh, let's harness this and create this rune stone that collects all the moon's energy. But then that's the thing. It's like maybe they used the tech to monopolize the energy and magic of Etheria, and then they took it away from the people and then gave it only to the princesses, and that's why the people began to resent the princesses, and boom, I solved it.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there is certainly, we can all agree, there's an imbalance of power and access to magic, right?
Yeah,
in Etheria. The princesses have a lot of it. The Horde kind of does. They have one rock. And then also a lot of like mech. They have a lot of mech and like some poison for the plants and one rock. And then everyone else is just at the mercy of the Horde basically, or being like relatively protected by Glimmer and the other princesses, I guess, depending on what region they live in. And that's like not great.
Yeah.
That's not good.
It's not good at all. But yeah, I mean, yes. Will we be seeing She-Ra becoming even more and more and more powerful as the show goes on, or will we reach a point where it's like, okay, she can't? Like, my biggest fear is
she's
the
gotta
Sailor...
move the planet back.
Oh my god, that's true.
Yeah, maybe.
But my
go home, my real home. Move the planet back.
That's her Korra moment, where Korra like opened the spirit portal forever. Well, she's like, well, we gotta go back to the galaxy we came from and open ourselves up back to the world, to the universe forever. Boom. Okay, but no, my thing is, my biggest fear with She-Ra is that it's going to become kind of like Sailor Moon, where by the end of every Sailor Moon season, she somehow miraculously gets this power that solves everything. Like this new power and new upgrade. So my thing is, with She-Ra, will kind of, yes.
Is it
well, I mean, no. I mean, with the Avatar, I feel like there are some limitations. I didn't feel like the Avatar was so impossibly OP. Whereas Sailor Moon,
I was just being obnoxious about the finale with Avatar. I haven't seen
Sailor Moon.
But with Sailor Moon, it's like worse. It's like literally, it's like literally in a blink of an eye, it's like solved. Except for the best season, Sailor Moon S. It's the best season because they don't do that.
One too.
But exactly, it is the gayest one.
It's
the greatest one.
Yeah.
But no, what I mean is, will she ever plateau, or are we just throughout the show going to see her grow more and more and more powerful until she eventually can move the planet back?
I think definitely she's going to keep getting more powerful, but I don't think her getting more powerful is what's going to be interesting. I think her growth in terms of her identity, which is still like a huge thing all the time for her. Who is she as Adora? Who is she as She-Ra? How is she going to be a different She-Ra from Mara or any of the other She-Ras, and different from a She-Ra that Light Hope wants her to be? I feel like that's going to be like the core of her journey, and her getting more and more power is going to help influence what she's capable of doing with that decision. But it's not going to be like the high point at all. So I'm like, honestly, I don't like, yeah, she's getting more powerful, but that's not really what I care about. I want to see her thought process and how she's going to make the best decisions possible as the new She-Ra in this very specified role, and if she's going to break out of that role or not.
Right.
And turn her back on Light Hope, or at least like have a lot of arguments with Light Hope. Like, I'm not going to do that. That sounds dumb. I don't care if that's what she was supposed to do. I'm the new She-Ra, and this is what I want to do. Like, I hope there's some of that. I want her to like break out of like these like expectations if she has a good enough reason to, and kind of pave her own path. Not unlike Korra or Aang, you know.
Mm-hmm. Will she be the last She-Ra? Will she be like, no one deserves this much power, and just end it? I mean,
I don't know. She'd have to get a lot of power to become that scared.
Like,
but
I think kind of scatter it democratically, like the power back to the people or something, instead of just having one person be super powerful.
That would be nice. Yeah, I think that'd be a very humbling thing for her to do.
I mean, I don't know if it'd be humbling. It'd be more just like, I feel like Adora is I feel like what's interesting about She-Ra is that Adora's not in it for the power. Right?
No,
she's not in it for the power. She's not in it for the power.
I like how you said no, as if she was actually suggesting that.
Oh yeah.
No,
she's not.
It was a question, but she is a statement.
But she's not in it for the power. She's never been. And if anything, she's just so weighed down by the responsibility of it. She's just like, what do I do with this? Right. So that's I feel like, even if she does gain more powerful, I don't think it's going to be less boring, because Adora herself is interesting. And she's not someone who's just going to be like, well, haha, now this is all solved. Okay.
Totally. That's where the struggle's going to come from. And I'm here for the struggle.
Yeah. We love a struggle. Poor Adora. We just want angst from her. Poor Adora. But okay, final question. And then we can wrap this up. Who is Grayskull?
Okay, you know what?
I don't know.
I like this question. This is, you know what? Who is Grayskull?
Look,
isn't Grayskull?
How is Grayskull? It's like for the honor of Grayskull, but how is that person? Like, is it a person? Is it a place? Is it a planet? Is it a universe? Is it Hordak? Because he's the only skull we've seen. You know?
Maybe he's like the brother of Grayskull, and it's a secret.
Okay,
Oh my God.
I feel like everyone like who's gonna listen, who knows about old She-Ra is gonna start screaming at this moment. So I want everyone to know that at this exact moment, I'm googling who is Grayskull.
Okay, don't tell us. I don't want to know.
I know very little about He-Man, but I do know his like arch enemy is like a really buff purple guy in a hood who's a skull. Maybe that's Grayskull.
The first thing that pops up is Castle Grayskull. Is none of this real?
I don't know.
I mean, it would be the greatest thing.
person.
It would be the greatest.
I know what it is.
Oh, don't tell us. I don't
want
want to
you to know it's really lame and it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Is it not a person?
It is a person.
Okay.
I knew. Is it Scully Purple Hood guy?
That's Skeletor.
Forgive us. Forgive us for not knowing it's Skeletor.
I never watched the original. I just
Skeletor is
remember
a meme. You should just know Skeletor. That's if you don't know anything, you should know who Skeletor is.
It's wonderful. I just remember him on site. I remember his name.
That's
So
his name
too
is
many
Skeletor.
skulls.
He's
Show
not
us two
Grayskull. His name is Skeletor.
like 3 skulls.
Okay, well, to be honest, I thought Skeletor and Hordak were the same thing.
Yeah, they look maybe they're the real brothers, and Grayskull is
God.
like the dad. No.
Grayskull's the dad. Yeah, I'm just like of all things, like it's such an ugly name. Of all the things that could possess like respect and could demand honor, Grayskull, like really, like what is honorable about a Grayskull? I just don't know.
It's not the Grayskull itself. It's like how you use the Grayskull.
Yes,
I want you to know that y'all are thinking about this really hard. It's super lame who Grayskull is.
I want to know what Grayskull is now. I'm gonna look it up too.
Okay, all right. Well, all right.
You just want to know it's super lame.
Yeah, I want to know because you said it was really lame. Now I'm interested.
Well, I have to wait for if Beatriz wants to know. I'll tell her. I won't spoil her, but
I don't know if our listeners want to be spoiled this either. Is the
but
thing?
my thing is
it
like
a spoiler?
okay, based on the original planet in She-Ra is not Etheria, so I don't think we're really doing any continuity here.
Okay, well, okay. If this is just going by the old show, so they already have diverted a lot from it. So
Yeah.
What is it?
Okay, Grayskull was a person. He was King Grayskull,
Guy.
and he was he is an ancestor of in the original She-Ra, Adam and Adora.
Yeah. He's like
So
their great granddaddy or something.
Basically.
Wait, who's Adam?
Adam is He-Man.
That's He-Man.
Adam
What?
and Adora are
Like,
siblings.
Adam is such a boring name.
That's why they call him He-Man because Adam's a really bad name.
Like
So you have
Adora is like
He-Man.
a
To be fair,
cool name.
He-Man is way worse than She-Ra. She-Ra actually sounds like his name is He-Man.
He-Man's like it's redundant.
His dude, like that's literally
This dude.
We don't call She-Ra she/her, but that's like kind of
exactly.
the same
What?
thing.
All
But
I
no,
say
so,
about
like-
He-Man, all I'll say about He-Man is what's going on. I mean,
Yeah.
What's going
on?
But yeah,
What's
so
going on?
Grayskull.
Hey,
So when they're
what's
like the
going on?
power of Grayskull, like their like home base is Castle Grayskull. So like I think
so
it's
it's
something
their
they
family
say.
or something.
That is a
okay. So it's
boring,
their
but
bloodline. I guess.
It's super lame. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Maybe
All
you
right.
should get from the Grayskull planet then. Ha ha! But
Let's see
wait,
what happens.
that's confusing though. So like, was every other She-Ra like in
I
her?
don't know. I think
Well, the thing is, I don't know. I didn't. Well, I've seen some He-Man. I haven't seen a lot of She-Ra of the original, and that's the thing. Like She-Ra existed in He-Man, but like they literally just made She-Ra as the girl version of He-Man.
Oh yeah.
but she's so much more interesting.
Obviously.
Look how that worked out.
Now she's gay. Good job.
Good job.
Great job. Great job. It's the best. Okay. I think that this is a good place to end the podcast. Is there any last minute things you want to mention before we go? Any crazy wild thoughts, theories? This is the time to throw them out.
Literally said, is Adora a robot? So I think we got it.
My question is Scorpia's dad a scorpion? Or is
That's a good question.
Hey. But how would that work?
It could be her mom.
I hope it's her mom.
Oh my god, did she come out of an egg?
That's a thing in Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Like, you have, everyone's probably seen Tom. He's the demon boy from Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Yeah. And his mom is literally a giant demon. His dad's a mumin. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, I mean, if Scorpia came out of an egg, I think we've crossed the line.
Okay.
I hope she was hacked.
If she was hacked,
kept all the egg cracks, like people keep umbilical cords, and she's like,
God.
"This is the egg you came out of."
It's over. Oh my god.
Okay. All right.
Dylan's about to edit like all this last part out.
No, I'm editing this. I have the power. We're keeping it all in here. Okay, all right. You can find out all the info on this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can join us on Discord to text chat about animation at overlyanimated.com/Discord. Support us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Ryan, aka Brian. And thanks as always to our Patreon executive producers, John, Ryan, Steve, Alex, and Hugh. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.